Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector. Happy Wednesday slash hump day to you. Coming at you with a quick video for a thought that I had, or really more so a realization, which is that most video games are not worth collecting. And I know that sounds funny coming from someone who calls himself the collector, but when you look at an app like GameEye, right? GameEye is an app that I use to digitally catalog all of the physical games that I have. And GameEye, according to GameEye, there are roughly 55,000 North American video games in total, right? Now, they're not perfect. They could be missing data. There could be more, there could be less. But let's just go with the number of 55,000. If you think about it, just at a broad level, at least 25% of those games are sports games. Another 25% of those games are poorly executed knockoffs of other better titles. At least 10% of those games are children's games, coloring games, stuff that's really just made for children, like games that are based off of Blue's Clues and Bluey and Peppa Pig, Barbie. Just I'm including all of that stuff, right? So a huge chunk of that are those games. A good portion of those games are also games that are so old that they're virtually obsolete. Like no one's gonna play them. So think whatever number factors in games that were made for like the Atari generation and older. I don't know anyone who's still collecting that stuff. I'm not saying that no one's collecting that stuff, but I don't think that that's what's making up a lot of today's collections, right? So, and we can pull percentages from other aspects and other portions of that number, the 55,000. But if we just said that 20% of the 55,000 were actually really good games with really good graphics, really good stories, really good voice acting, great gameplay mechanics, great plots, everything like that, out of that 55,000, you'd really only have about 11,000 games, right? Which means that, let's just say, spanning across systems, and I'm just averaging and I'm just doing rough numbers. You guys, you mathematicians, you gaming historians, you can let me know down in the comments how right or wrong I am. But just when I draw the numbers and when I do the math, usually for any given system, the best games are usually like the top 100 games. After that, it's just a lot of repeat and knockoff versions of just better games, sports games, children's games, or just really obscure games that really most people won't want to play. And I tend to look at my collection, and I use my collection, I guess, as a benchmark, which isn't good, right? Because I don't feel like I have that large of a collection. But when I look at, like, let's take the Switch, right? My Switch collection. Even when I had 300 Switch games, which I thought I had curated a quality collection of 300 Switch games, that still wasn't even, I don't even know if that was 10% of the total Switch library, right? Or when you think about, and even though to me they were quality, there were still a good amount of games in there that were just fluff. Or if you look at my PlayStation 4 collection, which is only made up of, say, I don't know, 50 to 70 games, that's still a drop in the bucket. Or my PlayStation 2 collection, which is only made up of 50 to 60 games, and at one point was 100 games. Even if it was 100 games, that still wouldn't have been 10% of the PS2's total library. And I could say the same for my PlayStation 1 collection, my Dreamcast collection, so on and so forth. And when you start to look at it, usually the best games, like the best 100 games or the best 150 games on a system is all you really need. And if you think about it, let's say you had an average of 30 systems, there really wouldn't be a way where you could have 10, 15,000 games in your collection and all of them are great quality games. At some point, you're going to be collecting shovelware or fluff or games that just aren't good. Now, obviously, when it comes to games, the saying "beauty is in the eye of the beholder." It really it really comes into play, because how great a game is very subjective, right? No one can say. I don't want to say no one can say, but it's difficult to objectively say that a game is bad, because there's always going to be someone who likes a particular game, just like there's always going to be someone, at least one person, that finds you attractive, right? Um, but the thing of it is that how many people find you attractive, right? And how many people like that game? And so there are games that, just by sheer number of people that either don't like the game, don't buy the game, don't want the game, when you look at stats like that, you could stand back and say, okay, that's not a good game because it's not a desirable game. And I think that's the issue that folks run into when it comes to, curating their collection. They focus on the number of games as opposed to the quality of the games. And so they wind up building these collections that are large in number, but are hollow in value, in terms of gameplay value, replay value, resell value. And you don't have to be a reseller to want to get a game that you'll be able to easily resell, because what if a day comes where you no longer enjoy the hobby? The last thing you want is 1,000 games that no one else wants, and now you can't sell it. Or no one else wants to play, so you can't even give it away because your kids don't want to play it or your family doesn't want to play it. So you can still be smart, and you can still get good games and quality games that will hold their value, both from a gameplay standpoint, in terms of enjoyment, as well as a monetary standpoint in terms of you being able to sell it when you no longer want it. And I think that when you start to look at overall collecting that way, you'll quickly start to realize that there's just a lot of trash out there. Like, most games are trash. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but yeah, most games are trash. If you look at the fact that there are 55,000 games just in North America. I mean, if you start looking at other countries, PAL, Europe, all that stuff, now you're talking about over 125,000 games. And there's no way that 125,000 games are all great, especially when you start to look at something like the Sega Saturn, where they literally have video games that are board games, and just like Saturn has some really obscure games. Don't get me wrong, like Saturn has some amazing games. Like the top 10% of Saturn games are amazing. But then once you start getting into that, like that bottom 50%, the games just start to get downright weird. Really like weird, unplayable in my opinion. So I don't know. I think that's the case. And when I look at game collecting that way, it helps me to just hyper focus on the quality. It is unfortunate that quality costs, and usually the games that are of the best quality are the most expensive. It sucks that life works that way, but that's like anything else. The best house is going to be the most expensive. The best cars are the most expensive. The best people cost you more to be around. They cost more of your time, more of your energy. It's just the nature of life. So to be upset that a quality game is expensive is just not realistic, because most things that are worth it cost money. But when you look at it, I mean, overall, most games are trash. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm the Y2K collector. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. This was just a thought I had today. Happy hump day. Hopefully you are enjoying this beautiful weather. The sun is out, it's shining, and today is game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. I'm not gonna lie, I was watching the Eastern Conference Finals yesterday, and it was a little boring. That Pacers-Celtics game was boring. Like, it got fun at the end, but even then it was still kind of boring. Hopefully this Timberwolves and Dallas series provides us more entertainment, although I don't know if Dallas and Minnesota is going to be more entertaining than Denver and Minnesota, but we'll see. Let me know what you think. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.